Hey everyone, Vortican here. My mic was muted for a good portion of Act 1, so I'm going to be doing this intro in post. So, for this challenge I decided to beat all of PoE2 with the restriction of only being able to use curses as my main source of damage. And you may ask, how do you do damage with a curse? So, since this was recorded in 0.2, the main ways to do damage for curses were the following. Decaying Hex, which causes your curses to do chaos damage over time equal to your intelligence. Impending Doom, which causes an explosion around the cursed mob when the curse expires, equal to 15% of your current mana. This does also include when the mob dies. And finally, there is Burning Inscription, which puts a small burning area on the ground and does 20% of your maximum mana per second as burning damage. We can kind of ignore this because I didn't really use it in the run. My main focus for this build was to use Decaying Hex and just use the damage over time. In 0.3, Decaying Hex was moved to level 3 supports, so this challenge wouldn't even be possible the way I did it now, and I'm assuming this was to nerf early game chaos damage, but it was undocumented from what I can find. With all that said, let's get into the run. You don't get access to curses until level 3 uncut skill gems, so I had to wait until I defeated the Rust King for this. I however forgot to save my uncut support gem for Decaying Hex and had to go back to the Devourer and defeat them for the extra support gem. From this point on, my main source of damage was now only curses. The first thing I did was I went and found the Rotten Druid for another support gem and added Impending Doom to my curse. You can see in the gameplay I also used Contagion. This was just to make it more bearable to play the build and allowing my curses to spread to other mobs and avoiding recasting and spending way more mana. Contagion also reset the Decaying Hex timer back to 0 seconds, so it was really convenient to have when I was mobbing. And Contagion also just is not super useful versus bosses that do not have extra mobs, and it also doesn't really gain added damage from my build because I never added supports for damage throughout the run. The only other thing of note early on was that I was running a wand with mana drain. This was just really nice to avoid having to use so many freaking mana flasks due to the mana cost of curses being absolutely insane. As I progressed through Act 1, I picked up quite a few upgrades, the main one being Withering Presence. This is a spirit reservation skill that periodically puts wither stacks on enemies in your presence and increases the chaos damage they take, which was obviously a huge upgrade for myself at this time. Bossing was quite slow at first, and to make matters worse, this was a time before sprint even existed, so I had to focus on gear that had strength on it in order to be able to run shield charge and leap slam throughout the campaign, which also meant I would have to forego intelligence typically on my gear in order to get the strength. And this was just a little bit annoying at first, but once I got further in the campaign, it just kind of evened out and wasn't a problem anymore.
And savor each bite. Freezing gale.
So, now we are on to Act 2. Not a whole lot changed with the build during Act 2 other than the Ascendancy. I went as fast as I could to Balbala to get access to the Trials of Sekhemuz. However, before doing the trial, I made a quick stop at Keth to defeat Kabbalah for the 2 skill point reward, and then decided to finish the rest of the area by defeating Azarian. I tend to always do this on new characters because I am usually underleveled for the trial, and the extra levels and passive points makes the trial go much smoother. The trial itself had nothing interesting. I did not play super well in the trial, however I also didn't get any bad afflictions or good boons, so it was just meh. I defeated Rattlecage and grabbed my first Ascendancy, which was obviously going to be Lich. For my first 2 Ascendancy points, I grabbed the Rupture the Soul notable. This note itself doesn't help much other than for magic and rare packs, but at least I got the Curse Area of Effect in the small notable right before it. Right before Jamin Ra, I made sure to get one last level to grab my probably only major notable at this point in the campaign, which was the Void passive node. This node gives a big boost to chaos damage, and on top of that gives -3 to the cursed enemy's chaos resists, and since I didn't have access to Despair yet, this was really the only way I was going to reduce their chaos res. Jamin Ra was a long 9-minute fight, but after I finally got him down, I moved on to Act 3.
Die! Ulasekama!
This is not over. Not yet.
Okay, what are you going to drop, bud? Bye-bye. So after defeating the giant scary monkey, I was finally able to get Despair, which was a huge bump to my damage. And on top of that, I finally had a curse that was worth using Jeweler's Orbs on, so I ended up using a lesser Jeweler on it in order to add Heightened Curse to it, which gave it about 4 or 5% more chaos reduction. I also grabbed Dark Effigy at this time and added Withering Touch support to it because I was originally planning to use it to add Wither stacks, but I did not realize that they had nerfed Withering Touch to require you to do a certain amount of damage, so it wasn't actually as good as I had originally thought it would be. So when you see it on my skill bar, just know that I basically never used it. Our next big goal in Act 3 was to make sure that we got our second Ascendancy, which you automatically get entrance to by defeating Zyclution. However, I did not expect that Zyclution's pillars that he can stand on would actually just be outright immune to curses, which meant I could not damage them, and I had to just run to the opposite side of the arena every time I wanted to actually have him get off of a pillar. It was absolutely insane how long this fight took. Oh, okay, I thought he was doing a different attack. Okay. So after progressing quite a bit further into the act, I finally decided to go do my Trial of Chaos. When I finally got my Ascendancy points, I decided to go with Eldritch Empowerment, which causes non-channeling skills to cost an additional 3% maximum energy shield, and gives it 30% more damage. The reason I thought this would be good is because I thought I would somehow be able to recharge my energy shield fast enough to the point where it wouldn't matter, because 3% is so little when you only have like 100 energy shield. However, the problem was dots. I did not think about how if I was literally stuck standing in a dot, I would never be able to get my regen, and therefore I would never be able to cast a spell, and so I had to quickly reconsider this. So we'll go respec, I guess.
Greetings.
I don't like... That's... Wow! Rip money. I'm just gonna grab this. So this mistake that I had made actually was pretty costly. I had to use all of my current gold just to respec 2 nodes and then switch over to Dominion over Flesh in order to get a second curse. Curses can affect hexproof enemies was just a nice plus, and then I ended up putting on Blasphemy with Enfeeble just to make myself a little bit tankier because I had started running a Scepter now. I don't really know how to include this clip into the video, however I just kind of wanted to put it here because I had this freaking item at the very edge of the screen for the Queen of Filth fight that kept going off with the item filter, and I just want to have everyone feel the pain of hearing this over and over again every time I rolled, and I had to do this for 2.5 minutes because of how low my DPS was. Wow, did they made her temp chain stronger, it feels like. They made this boss even... Okay, seriously, that item on the edge of my screen? I am so sorry to anyone who's watching this. Jesus Christ. Yeah, to that guy that thinks that you can't just stand melee and she never uses her attack. There you go. So at this point I had actually found a really nice pair of gloves in Oswald's shop for my build. However, I had just spent all my money previously respecking my Ascendancies, so I didn't currently have any money and couldn't afford the gloves. This of course meant I'd have to go to another area and grind for a little bit just to get a few items to sell in order to buy these gloves. After getting these gloves, I decided to spend my only few exalts on them in order to try and get some good mods as suffixes, and I had a very high chance of hitting something useful. However, both of them were just bricks. Okay, 19 int though is actually disgusting.
Somehow, I've been cheated out of another kill.
Huh. They just don't attack? Okay. Right before defeating the Act Boss Doriani, I went ahead and respec'd a little bit so that I could get Event Horizon for the massive amount of chaos damage it gives. However, this didn't really help a ton as the Doriani fight was still an 8.5 minute fight. That should be the kill. So since this run was done in 0.2, Act 4 and the preludes didn't exist, and it was still cruel, so I'm just going to make a highlight reel so people don't have to watch all the acts again, and then we'll move on to maps. Oh.
Very loud and very dull.
Okay. So apparently the minions in Asinia's room actually give XP, and since I was so close to a level, I was able to get spaghettification during the fight itself.
Hold still. To me, Draven.
After Cruel Crowbell, we picked up Impending Doom, not the support, the actual node. Why they're named the same, I have no idea.
Aw, we were just getting started.
After defeating Kabbalah, we ended up getting the Ingenuity node, which brought us up to 233 intelligence.
Quiet your tongue, serpent.
After Torgol, I went and claimed 2 more passive points and was able to get Insightfulness. This brought me to 266 intelligence.
The path to
Yuvanaya. Warm nights.
After getting a decent distance into Cruel Act 3, I got the Wither Away node, which was a decent bump to my damage.
Okay. Maxed out Wither, and I get a free stack of Wither.
pay the thousandfold. Don't fail me. Not now.
27 deaths. Not too bad. 12 hours with this low DPS skill. Pretty good.
All that I sacrifice.
So I'm just going to talk over a little bit of gameplay here. This is T2 maps, and the build was basically just playing like Essence Drain Contagion. However, the scaling for the ability was such an annoyance to me at this time, because my brain kept thinking the same as Contagion and Essence Drain, which both have a line of text on it that says it scales with spell damage. However, Decaying Hex does not have this line, but my brain wouldn't separate those two, and so I kept thinking, does this affect it? I don't think it affects it, right? And obviously spell damage does not affect the Decaying Hex. This made it really hard to find proper supports for the skill, especially since you couldn't have Swift Affliction on there. Leveling this build was obviously very slow because I basically was playing a low DPS version of Essence Drain. I think I would be around half, or if not less, the DPS of Essence Drain currently. And so regen mobs were incredibly annoying. Sometimes I just had to completely ignore them until I fixed this later on with Acrimony on Essence Drain as just a supportive thing. I probably could have put Acrimony on my Contagion, but I don't know why I didn't think of this. The other things that were annoying was the bug in 0.2 where curses cast near a wall would just use your mana but wouldn't cast the curse. They fixed this in 0.3, sadly. The last thing that was kind of annoying for the build was proximity tangibility. This makes it so that the mobs are immune to damage from a certain distance away from them, but also it makes it so the curses that are currently on them literally just fall off, which meant I had to keep spending a large amount of mana in order to cast it on them again if I went out of this range. Eventually I got used to it and like played around it better, but it was pretty annoying for leveling. Obviously having a low DPS skill that's only really good at killing packs of mobs was not really great for killing bosses. This meant that I had to just stand around for a lot longer than a normal build would, and I had to make sure I dodged everything. Of course, over time, I learned from my mistakes and built upon my character a ton, and we got all the way to the end game. So we're jumping way into the future here. This is end game at this point, and I'm getting my last 2 Ascendancy points by doing the Trials of Sekima. This fight took around 7 minutes of me just running in circles, but because ES is just so overpowered, it didn't really matter. I could just tank this guy forever and make as many mistakes as I wanted. You can see at this point I went into Chaos Inoculation. That's because I was not going with the Eternal Youth stuff that everyone was doing with Lich, just because I wanted to try out the other nodes, and it worked out all right. However, if I wanted to push all the way to tier 4 content, I would have definitely had to go for Eternal Youth with this character just because of how low DPS I was. At this point in the league, the stuttering of the servers was just getting so annoying that I didn't really want to play anymore. On top of that, PoE1's new league was about to come out, and I just wanted to get this done and get it out on YouTube. Of course, I never ended up editing and releasing it, so you're seeing it now.
Memories remain real.
Oh my god.
This cannot be.
Jesus Christ. Stunner. What the fuck this shit? There is another one. What the fuck is going on with the game? Which is gonna be this.
So I'm just going to talk over these parts because my mic for some reason was messed up for a good portion of the recording. It was just extremely quiet. Right before the trial, I purchased myself a Sapphire that had increased maximum energy shield. This kind of just speaks for itself. Faster curse activation, which made it so my curses now were just invisible when I was using them due to them now activating instantly. And finally, increased effect of Withered, which obviously just gives me a little bit of extra DPS during fights. Before moving on to the Arbiter of Ash, I decided to quickly go do all the T0 bosses that I collected keys for, just to see if I could actually do them on this character quickly. And of course, the stuttering was just absolutely insane, but I pushed through and made sure to complete them. Okay, this stuttering is so bad though. Like, look at this graph. Holy crap, dude. Please tell me there's not a third phase. I literally don't remember this boss. God, ES is so dumb. Just don't mind me while I technically have 3,000 regen per second. Don't mind me. It's fine.
Purify.
Okay, that should be enough to end the fight. Cool. We're almost at 800 intelligence. I'm really hopeful to get 800 intelligence before the end of the, Wait, this is the weapon that they were, like, showcasing, right? Yeah. Cool. Stutter, stutter, stutter. Fuck off. Wow, this is boring. God, I want to call him so bad, because, like, in all honesty, it doesn't really change anything. Oh, there's the hand. Okay. Is there a shadow or something? No, it's just following you. And then, okay, it makes a thing under you. Oh. Yeah, and those you can just dodge late. Okay. Learn the boss. I don't know what he would add in the later stages. That was kind of... Yeah. Quiver. Cool. Yeah, so we're now at, 788 again still. I think I showed this at the end of Expedition. I'm literally just waiting to buy this freaking amulet off this one guy, but he's not coming online. So by this point I had given up on farming for King of the Mist because I did around 300 rituals and did not get the freaking key, so I just decided to go get all the fragments for Arbiter of Ash. You'll see in these clips that I actually had Essence Drain, Contagion, and Lightning Warp on, and I was using them on the bosses. This was just to make it go faster. I was really not using these for damage, just really, I just wanted to get everything done at this point. We gotta run around them. Oh no.
To ash, demon of Atsuaki.
Whoa. I'll use this, just... Cool. Another boss down.
3 keys needed here.
Okay, oh, wait, is my mic being picked up? Yes it is, okay. I don't know this boss at all. I tried it one time when it was one try and that's it, and I died, like, literally when it got to half health on a character that did a lot of damage, so this is going to be very interesting. Let's actually do a /death.
Submit.
Let's see how many times this takes me. Now I was on to the final battle. Before entering, I made sure to take Essence Drain and Contagion off my skill bar, and as stated, I was basically going into this boss fight completely blind. The boss ended up taking around 2 hours to get a complete run due to learning the boss's mechanics and his bugs as well. You can see I was actively trying to fix the stuttering problem during the fight itself, doing things such as lowering the graphics to the lowest settings and even using resolution scaling, but nothing was fixing the problem. This stuttering problem and the fact that the League for PoE1 was coming out in about a week made me really want to just get this character done, and so I persisted until I managed to finally get the boss down. It took around 37 tries, but I finally managed to beat it. Yeah, I didn't realize that you could go into the beam and not take damage at, like, for a half a second. And that's really, I don't know, the beam should disappear faster from him.
Submit, Plague-born.
Okay. I'm not gonna cull. I'm not a bitch.
You have failed. Humanity has failed. It must start again.
That said, holy cow, cull would have saved me so much time. There, we got him. Oh god, curse only. Technically, shield charge too, but... Jesus Christ, that was brutal. Mainly because of the stuttering and the balls. I hate the balls so much. Like, alright, I just wanted to quickly show my build for this character. Obviously, it's not a guide or anything. I just wanted to show people where I was at the end of the game, or at the end of this character. Like I said, I'm not doing King of Mist. I just really don't feel like grinding anymore. I'm done with this character. And I don't feel like grinding for the Divines to get King of the Mists. So, obviously, Decaying Hex, I mean, you can just read it. It's 100% int. I'm at 806 at the end of this character. Obviously, you could get much more. I probably could easily got like 1,200, 1,300 if I cared to grind, but I just don't care anymore. Impending Doom, this is more just to... make it so clearing was better. It really, when you, it does damage based on your current mana, 15%, and it also has a 3 uses on it with a cooldown, but that doesn't really matter too much. And I only have 2,200 mana. We'll just say 2,000. So it does 300 damage if I'm at max mana, basically, as its base, and then that gets scaled up a little bit. So it just helps with, you know, if I curse a pack, it will hit all the pack, and then, you know, blow them all up. Obviously, that is combined with my passive from the Lich, which is this one, which has a 33% chance to explode. So when it comes to rares, you know, those two mixed together typically will just blow up the rare. We have Heightened Curse, because there's just really no good damage supports for my thing. Like, Despair itself, I guess, technically counts as its own support, because it's upping its own damage. Intense Agony, this was more just for maps. I forgot to fucking look into a new support for Arbiter. Or, not, is it called? Yeah, it's Arbiter. And then Derange. This one is like literally the main damage source. You know, this is giving me 64% more. And you may wonder why I'm not running Swift Affliction. And that's because this does not have a duration tag, so I'm not allowed to put Swift Affliction on here. Which is great. I hate that. Even though the curse technically has a duration, you can't put Swift Affliction on because this only is scaled by Chaos and Curse. Yeah. It made it really, really bad. What else? So Contagion, just the usual Arcane Tempo plus Magnified Effect. I ended up adding Chaotic Freeze eventually. This was just really nice for... if you were against a rare that had the explosion stuff, it would just shatter all the corpses. They couldn't blow up any corpses. Same as any enemies in the maps that just did that. It was really nice. And then on top of that, it would sometimes just freeze a rare for me. So that was nice. Hinder I added later. I don't know if this really even helped. Maybe in maps where the mobs had like increased move speed. Other than that, I don't think it really helped. Yes, I did level my Contagion. Again, this is just more for mapping. This is just more for mapping. I could have went even further, right? There was no point in leveling my Despair past 19, because in order to get the next level, I think you need level 21 or something like that. But the problem is, I'm gaining 1% less chaos res on the enemy, which is basically nothing. So it's just not worth all the time. Which is why I'm not running a wand or anything that gives plus to levels of chaos skills. Yeah. Anyways, moving on. Withering Presence, just kind of obvious. Blasphemy, I ended up running Temporal Chains eventually. For the longest time I was running Enfeeble. And this I did take the time to get level... I ended up getting a level 20 gem to drop of Spirit and... whatchamacallit? Skill gem. And I made sure to sit there and get those. I'm sure this helped a little bit with Arbiter, having that extra. If I had gotten, I think 34 Spirit, I would have took on like a body. I would have took Clarity off of here and added Enfeeble, and that would have made me way tankier. I don't even need this Clarity. It's actually kind of pointless, but anyways, again, moving on. Essence Drain. The main reason for this was Acrimony, to reduce life regen, because it was just so bad in early maps. I actually tried grabbing this node, but the problem is there's so much increased duration of curse, and you want to keep your curse around 8 seconds, and the reason for that is just because then you have, like, literally it's like this node here increases the effect of my curse, right? It actually should probably say magnitude here, but anyways, it increases the effect after 50% of the duration. So if I go over 8 seconds, which is how long this lasts, then I don't get the full buff from Impending Doom, which it's really annoying that that's called the same thing as the support. And Temp Chains, I think, increases this thing's duration by a little bit. So at this point, now that I am running Temp Chains, I probably could go back into here. But again, I don't care about playing the character anymore. I'm kind of just done with it. Convalescence? Whatever. Kind of obvious. I'm just running this because, you know, panic button. Lightning Warp, I ran this purely for damage with the shock ground. So we have, like, you know, longer duration, the amount of shock, and then I also have this area of effect. That's just purely, I'd see a rare, and I would try to get it so one of the white mobs around it just got low. I would Lightning Warp on it and create shock ground so that I could kill the rare faster. Leap Slam, this is my offhand panic button. Normally I have Martial Tempo. For the longest time I was running Hit and Run, but I realized that Energy Barrier kind of is better if I'm able to sit there and, you know, spam on the spot sometimes, and Energy Barrier would go off and save my ass. Although there is still the bug where sometimes my Leap Slam and Shield Charge just wouldn't work anymore. So that's awesome. That really made me like the game a lot, when I would just be stuck in a pack and I'm trying to Leap Slam and it just doesn't work because, yeah, reasons. Shield Charge, it used to have Martial Tempo on it, now it's just kind of there as a movement skill. Nothing really to say about that. For gear, obviously every single item has, you know, int and percent chaos. I was originally looking for mana on items as well, because I was trying to scale up the Impending Doom, but that's about it. This amulet is so nice. It took me a long time to get a good amulet. This amulet is like almost as good as Astramentus, but on top of that, it has the energy shield and the percent and plus energy shield. Our rings are meh. Like, they have int. I don't know if rings can run roll all attributes, but either way, it doesn't matter. It's more int. More int to mana. Belt can't roll int, so just a belt. The life is useless on it, looks like. I got this as a drop at some point, and I was just like, oh, it's tri-res, so I just threw it on. Boots, 30% move speed boots. That's really all that matters with int, mana, you know. Again, int chaos damage. No mana on this, right? Because I gave up on mana eventually. I think I was around 3k at one point, but in order to upgrade my items, I just needed, you know, better damage for the actual decay. I realized that Impending Doom wasn't actually doing any damage. For passive tree, this is a little bit weird. So my offhand has a bunch of like extra energy shield recharge rate nodes. This is just because when I would use oh my god, how do you even say this? Convalescence? Anyways, when you'd use that, it starts your recharge, and if I have higher rate, I don't think it actually switches your weapon though, which is very weird to me, by the way. I don't know why it doesn't switch your weapon, but yeah, if I happen to have shield charged and I use this, you know, I just get my shield back that much faster. Actually, I'm kind of curious. So this is over 50% a second, and then in this case it's under 50% a second, right? So I don't know. That was kind of my thought with some of those nodes. And what are the main things? I don't have this because again, like I said, leveling the curse doesn't really matter that much. If I was running Essence Drain, I think I'll show the numbers, but if I was running Essence Drain with like +4 to level, Essence Drain would be doing like double the damage that my freaking Despair can even do, which is kind of sad. And then we have an Against the Darkness with just %int. Yeah, it's kind of obvious why I have %int there. And I have a Megalomaniac that just gives me... all I care about is the mental alacrity, but the vigilance is actually also nice. Vigilance is down here. It gives some block, which gives me an extra 5% block or something like that on my other shield. Which I barely ever used. I always forgot to use it in bad situations, but it's fine. And then mental alacrity just gives int and %int. I went Chaos Inoculation eventually because it's just so hard to get gear that has Chaos Res and other stuff. Like, I just gave up on it. I'm not running Spaghettification because you have to go through this stupid node, and buying a Megalomaniac that would have had Alacrity plus Spaghettification probably would have just been impossible. So yeah, this would have been really nice to have, especially with Arbiter, because that 3% move speed, but yeah. Other than that, it's a pretty basic, you know, chaos damage, you know, passive tree. Like, there's nothing super interesting about it. Didn't grab this because, like I said, duration. I would have eventually probably grabbed this, Whispers of Doom, if I would have got a chest. I was trying to buy this chest off this guy, but he just never came online. That had some spirit on it. And if I would have had that chest, I would have grabbed this and threw Enfeeble on as well onto my Blasphemy and took Clarity off of Withering Presence, because I actually don't really need the Clarity. Like, I'm only casting so often. Like, even if I'm spamming my abilities, right? Like, yeah, I'm just not using my mana fast enough to actually worry about Clarity. And I think that's it. I think that's it for the actual build. I obviously, like I said, could have got way more int on my character. Like I could take off. Oh my god, Jesus Christ, I'm failing so bad. I could take off int, or I could have added like int runes on everything. I only have it on 4 pieces of gear, but body could add 2 int runes. This could have had 1. I bought a corrupted helm. Yeah, I'm just kind of rambling at this point. That's the curse only lich. I literally eat all content with only curses, other than, you know, the start of the game. And yeah, thanks for watching.